building contacts. But he said, and this is his sort of New Year's message, I guess, really, he said that it's time that perhaps we stopped this obsession with criticising Brexit. He said it's not a time bomb to be diffused. So really what Fox is saying is there is way too much negativity, that people are somehow obsessed with Brexit, can't accept the referendum result, and at the start of this year, isn't it time we accepted? The referendum was a decision, a fork in the road. We chose the direction we're going in. Whether we like it or not, let's make the best job of it. That is what Liam Fox is saying. The question is he justified in saying that? Well, I really rather think he is. And to help me through this thought process, let's listen to the former Deputy Prime Minister of our great nation, Lord Heseltine, speaking back in October.
The best deal of all is to abandon Brexit. And I think increasingly the public will come round to that view.
Well, that wasn't too positive, was it? So is he obsessed? Well, I tell you what, here he is this week speaking.
It is the most depressing thing that's happened in peacetime in my lifetime. I mean, this country is a country with a huge historic claim to influence what's going on in the world. And here we are voluntarily opting out of one of the power groupings of this century.
Oh dear, 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 it's getting worse. It isn't getting any better, isn't it? Clearly, Christmas has not cheered up Lord Heseltine. Well, I tell you what, let's try, shall we? The president of the CBI, Paul Dreschler, speaking to Sky News in December.
By the end of March, over 60% of companies that have actually got international interests which will be impacted by this uncertainty will have to put in place contingency plans. They will not be in favour of UK jobs, investment and the next generation.
So negativity there from big business, and perhaps top of the pops is Lord Adonis speaking to LBC last Saturday morning.
What the government chose to do, which was a straightforward policy choice on their part, was to follow Nigel Farage and propose that we leave all European economic institutions. That, I believe, is what's going to do such damage to the country.
Well, gosh, if the Prime Minister and the government are following me, things really must be bad, mustn't they? Well, all I can say to Lord Adonis, to Paul Dreschler from the CBI, who I think have got everything wrong in terms of their economic forecasts in my lifetime, from telling us that we should join the exchange rate mechanism, which we did, disaster, that we should join the euro, which we didn't, disaster avoided, and of course to Lord Heseltine, who I sat with in this very studio 48 hours before the Brexit vote, and we were interviewed by Ian Dale, and it was almost like somebody really refereeing a boxing match. We physically had to be kept apart. All I can say is that there is an absolute endless diet of negativity by people who have always got their predictions about our European relationship wrong in every single regard, and who simply cannot accept a democratic result. And even if they haven't changed their minds, surely once you've taken that fork in the road, doesn't it make sense to try and come together and make the best of it? So I think that Liam Fox is right. There is an obsession with criticising Brexit. Goodness me, we see it and hear it on the media every single day. And I'm asking you, if you were critical of Brexit last year, is it now time to accept the result and to move on? And if you think it is, then please call me on 0345 6060 973. Or maybe you think, actually, no, it doesn't matter what the people thought. It doesn't matter that manufacturing is the best it's been for 30 years. None of that matters. Actually, we should reverse Brexit. Then, of course, you can tweet to 84850, or perhaps you've got a message you'd like to give to Liam Fox himself, in which case tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Watch me on Facebook. We're live here from London. Without further ado, let's go to Jason in Sutton. Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, Nigel. I tell you what, to use the terminology of Boris Johnson, Liam Fox can go whistle. 40 years we've had to put up with people like yourself telling a pack of lies about the European Union.
Oh gosh, I must have started very early, mustn't I? Goodness me.
Geez, 20 years. You've been a career politician for 20 years now. 2 decades, Nigel. Come on.
2 decades of fighting against the establishment, Jason. And finally, on that day, on the 23rd of June, I helped support a vote that Jason would put me out of a job. I was the turkey that voted for Christmas.
I tell you what, Nigel, if anybody thinks that us Remainers are going to stop telling the truth after just 2 years, you've got another thing coming, I tell you. Look at this.
What is the truth, Jason? I mean, it's interesting that you use that word, because I was told the truth was we had to join the exchange rate mechanism. And I was at the time, Jason, I was a paid-up member of the Conservative Party. I was disgusted by the fact that we did it. I thought it would lead to economic ruin, and it did. And that then was the truth, as the establishment saw it. Equally, Jason, all those same people I've just talked about, they all thought we should join the euro. They all told us it would be a disaster if we didn't. They were wrong about that. I mean, this word, the truth, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Well, if you're talking about future predictions, then, yeah, I would agree.
Right.
Let's look at exactly what's happened in the last 18 months, 2 years. The state of the United Kingdom economy at the end of 2015 was just over $3 trillion. That's $3,002 billion was the size of the UK economy. Today, just 2 years later, and the Brexit referendum, we've lost $500 billion out of the size of our economy. If you look at our...
Sorry, Jason. Are you saying that the UK economy has contracted by about 20% in the last 2 years?
If you value it on international monetary standards, yeah. Take our exports, for example. We've just had...
I'm sorry, Jason. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I would agree with you that growth is pathetic. It is anemic. That productivity, particularly, is deeply concerning. Our total reliance on cheap foreign labour and not investing in new technology. I would agree with you and be critical about UK growth, but we haven't contracted.
The size of our economy, look, you can use Google, I'm sure you can. You can see the size of the most recent figures for the UK economy is just over $2.5 trillion in US dollars. This year, we've just had a record year for exports.
Yep.
If you read any of the figures, if you measure it in British pounds, yes, but the British pound on the international marketplace has been devalued by nearly 20%.
Well, Jason, we had a big, and you're quite right about sterling. Sterling began falling in 2010, and it fell very sharply from 2010. It fell far more from 2010 to the referendum than it has since the referendum.
Don't talk a load of old tosh. Any idiot can use the internet and look at the...
Well, I tell you what we'll do, Jason. I tell you what, I'm not going to argue with you. What I am going to do is get a sterling dollar chart, and I'm going to get it up on lbc.co.uk before this programme closes at 8 o'clock, and you can look at the numbers too, all right? Sterling has fallen since the referendum, you're right, but we've bounced considerably off those slightly hysterical lows after the referendum. But, Jason, whatever the past is, would you accept that we had a vote, we've made a decision, and surely the best thing to do is to accept it and get on with it? Well...
It was based on a pack of lies, Nigel, and you know that better than anybody.
I've been lied to all my life, and even before my parents were told, just vote yes, don't worry your silly little heads, it's just a trade deal, it won't be political. That was a lie, wasn't it?
We've known that we've been looking at a United States of Europe since Winston Churchill first talked about it in 1946.
Well, it would have been nice then. It would have been nice then if Mrs. Thatcher, who was very pro the common market in 75, and Harold Wilson and Jeremy Thorpe and the others had told the truth. Jason, I'm going to leave it there. We're never going to agree, but I am going to put that sterling chart up on the LBC website, lbc.co.uk, and listeners, you work out whether I'm right or whether Jason is right. Let's get on with Brexit, says Rachel in Sittingbourne. Rachel, that actually is the view of up to 70% of the electorate. Whether they voted for or against, the view of the overwhelming majority of ordinary people is simply get on with it. We're going to the East Coast, to Lowestoft, to speak to Joe. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening, Nigel.
No, I can hear the wind blowing. It's obviously...
I'll jump out of the wind. I'm out of the wind now.
Storm Eleanor's still blowing in Lowestoft. Good evening.
Evening. Yes, would you agree with me that a referendum should be honoured?
Well, I tell you what, Joe, we're told now by some of the Ramonas that it was only an advisory referendum. And in strict constitutional terms, that is absolutely true. But we were absolutely promised by everybody, not just the Prime Minister and the document he said, but even Hilary Benn. You know, we were told, this is your choice, you make this decision, and we will honour it.
Well, I think we're at cross purposes, Nigel. I'm on about the Good Friday Agreement.
Right.
Should that be honoured? Because I can't see how the Good Friday Agreement can be honoured and still staying out of the customs union and the single market. And I've been given no explanation of how they wish to proceed other than we're going to be aligned and there's going to be an open border.
Well, I think Bertie Ahern, Joe, the retired senior Irish politician, actually got this right when he talked about changed circumstances and actually having a bit of give and take on both sides and simply making it work. Of course, you know, a quarter of a century on, circumstances, or 20 years on, circumstances can change, Joe, can't they?
Oh, no doubt, but we've had in September, we've had Jean-Claude Juncker. After Brexit, he wants every country to join the Schengen area. So what we're going to do with the open border? See, do you remember that poster you had, Nigel?
Well, they do, actually, Joe. They not only do they want Ireland to join the Schengen area, they're also very keen to get rid of Ireland's competitive corporate tax base. So Ireland is facing a number of challenges, not just from Brexit, but actually coming from the European Commission themselves.
Yes, but if they do join the Schengen area, do you remember that poster you had in the referendum, Nigel?
I do.
Yeah, your prediction will be right, but not because of Europe, but because of Brexit.
Well, in which case, we'll have to do something about it. Joe, I thank you. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:15.
LBC and its sister stations from Global bring you a brand new event. The Global Awards, rewarding the very best from the world of music, news and entertainment. The Global Awards.
And the award for Best News Moment, Interview or Debate goes to...
One incredible night with performances from Andrea Bocelli and Sam Smith performing live. And you can have your say on who will win at the Global Awards. Voting is now open. To vote, download the Global Player app or go to lbc.co.uk. March the 1st, 2018. The Global Awards. It's coming.
At the Co-op, 790-gram packs of Kellogg's cornflakes and 510-gram packs of Cocoa Pops are only £2 each. Now we're back to work and the usual routine. That's breakfast sorted for the week. Another New Year deal from the Co-op. Participating stores only, varieties are stocked. Offer ends 16th of January 2018.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Cunard will be any time you like. Time to stop. Time to relax. Time to indulge. Time to love. Showtime. Time for a voyage with Cunard.
Even if you only employ one person, you have to provide a workplace pension. It's the law. Get to know your responsibilities with help from the pensions regulator. Visit workplacepensions.gov.uk.
Jack here has got Kev on the phone. As a PlusNet customer, he has lots of friendly people that have his back. Say hi, Kev.
Hi, Kev. Hi?
He can call PlusNet any day of the week. They've already helped him pick a package, upgrade a package, check bills, move home, give him matrix, ordered SIMs, transferred numbers, added buttons, checked his connection speed. And Julie here even helped him settle on Mallorca for his next family holiday.
Don't forget the factor 30.
PlusNet has lots of friendly staff that just can't help but help. It's probably why they've bagged Uswitch's Best Provider for Customer Service Award. PlusNet will do you proud.
Miss Grady, come on through.
GP and nurse appointments are now available in your area during the evening and on weekends. To book an appointment, contact your practice or visit nhs.uk/GP access for more information. Your NHS, here for you for longer.
Do you feel as if you never get enough sleep? Hamsey's Sleep Centres have the answer. Buy a new mattress from our promotional range today and we'll give you up to £100 trade-in on your old one. And up to £200 off your new one, free local delivery, free mattress protector and a free pair of pillows. Plus a full 10-year guarantee. We'll even give you a 100-night sleep trial. Hamsey's, Beckenham, Bexley Heath, Leatherhead, New Malden and Wallington. And at hamseys.co.uk.
Selling your home couldn't be easier with Good Move. No chains, no agency or legal fees to pay. No stress. For a guaranteed offer on your home, text SELL to 60777 right now. Good Move are the trusted house buyer who work to your timescale. They use independent valuers to ensure you get a fair price and can even give a cash advance to help with your move. Text SELL to 60777 or visit youroffer.co.uk today.
Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag FarageOnLBC.
The International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox, says there is an obsession with being negative about Brexit, and it's time at the start of this year we shook ourselves out of it and moved on, and we've listened to Lord Adonis and we've listened to Lord Heseltine. But there are some people out there being positive. One of them is John Longworth, a man who resigned his position with the British Chambers of Commerce to campaign for Brexit. And John's got lots of good news. He says, our manufacturing order books are at a 30-year high. Our export order books are at a 20-year high. Forbes magazine reported that the UK is the best place to do business in the world. But Longworth does also say that this negativity is not helping the renegotiation, because he makes the point that those that say we have to have a tariff-free deal with the European Union, whatever the cost, are effectively weakening Britain's negotiating position. Because if Mr Barnier believes that the British government will go along with these big trade associations and that her threat to walk away unless we get a good deal is not actually a credible threat, then we're not going to get the best out of it. And I also thought it was very interesting today in the Times that Daniel Finkelstein said the idea that Brexit can be stopped is a dangerous delusion that ignores the continuing revolt against political elites. And Finkelstein is absolutely bang on the money. There are elections coming up this year in Italy and elsewhere that will see a growth of Euroscepticism. And fascinatingly, they're not for tonight, in Italy and the other countries, the people that want to leave the euro and leave the European Union are all the under 40s. It's the big difference between Euroscepticism in Britain and indeed what's happening in the rest of Europe. So should we simply accept the result and get on with it? And certainly, if last year, you were very, very worried and very negative about Brexit, have you now changed your mind? Is it time to move on? Theo Phillis on Facebook says, common sense dictates that in democracies, referendum results should be respected regardless of the outcome. I've got a first-time caller from Portsmouth in the shape of Paul. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Nigel. I voted to stay in the European Union on the referendum. And I'm not your biggest fan. Let me put it, I am not your biggest fan.
Well, that's all right, Paul. As long as we can argue without coming to blows, then it'll be okay, won't it?
Oh, no, we're not going to argue. Because since the referendum, and I'm one of those that has accepted the result.
Yes.
Said, OK, let's get on with it. And over the last couple of years, I've been so appalled of Barnier and Tusk and Juncker, etc., bullying this country. And also you've got Heseltine, Lord Heseltine and Adonis, Sir Vincent Cable and now Sir Nicholas Clegg.
I know.
Going on and on about how we should stop it and everything else. The answer is no. I've got to the stage where I am a committed, and I said to your young lady on the phone earlier on, I don't like the word Brexiteer, but I am going to say I'm a committed Brexiteer. I want us out.
Gosh, so Paul, you've been through this Damascene conversion.
Yeah. I was actually a bit reluctant because I've always been sort of a Eurosceptic in one way, but
that, OK, it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't after 40 years. But I've got so fed up with all this nonsense that's come out from all these people. They don't want to respect the wishes of the people, the British people. I do. I mean, why would I, as a Democrat and a voter, and I'm a Conservative voter, if you have a Labour government, what am I going to do? March up and down the street saying we don't want a Labour government?
No, Paul. You will accept the result. You will accept the result and hope that your side wins next time round. It's called democracy, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to see another referendum. That's for sure. I don't want it. I support. Now, you may disagree with me. I support Theresa May, what she's doing, what she's attempting to do. Now, I don't want us to walk away. I want us to negotiate, but I do want a fair, level playing field from those other bunch of undemocratic, non-elected commissioners.
Oh, Paul, you hard-line extremist! You sound like me. Do you know what, Paul? I think you're right. I think the attitude that has been shown to us by Juncker, Barnier and the rest of them has been high-handed at best, perhaps even, one might say, arrogant. And I also think, Paul, that since that referendum, we've seen the State of the Union speech from Juncker, where he says we will have a European army by 2025, everyone must join Schengen, everyone must join the Euro, and I think a lot of voters have looked at that and thought, cool, thank goodness we voted the way that we did. Paul, I thank you very much indeed. Excellent phone call, and if you believe the YouGov polls, actually Paul is one of many, many people out there. They voted for us to remain. They voted for, to quote Paul, better the devil you know. But they now think, actually, we really ought to get on with this. And talking of Michel Barnier, you might remember back in October, I read out a letter on this show that I'd written to him because I'd seen a never-ending stream of Ramonas, Ken Clarke and Lord Adonis and Nick Clegg, all going to meet him in Brussels, in his office, and I wrote that letter saying, I'd like a meeting too, because I don't think you're hearing from anyone actually representing the 17.4 million that voted for us to leave. And I'll tell you, later on in this show, I've now finally come to a situation where I will be meeting Mr. Barnier. Steve is calling from Hackney. He's another first-time caller. Good evening, Steve.
Hello, hi, good evening, Nigel. I was one of your fans, which I was 100% agreed with you in the past, but now I'm extremely, extremely angry and upset.
Yeah.
Based on, the lies, I'm so sorry to use this word, on Brexit. Every single word that you guys said is lie. I personally, I don't know about the country.
Well, I tell you what, Steve. Before you go through, Steve, I always do this. Whenever anybody comes on and accuses me of lying in the referendum campaign, I always ask the same question. Name one lie that I told in the referendum campaign, Steve.
I clearly tell you. I said to you, I think about my own business. I'm a small business owner. And I had 10 member of staff. Now we have 7. The demand is gone by 50% less. The cost of the goods that we import is gone by 40%. If you don't believe me, I put all the invoices in front of you. My tax returns, VAT, everything, I put it in front of you, that it clearly shows that I pay 40% more and employ less people. And I voted for Brexit simply because to save the NHS, and you can see what's going on in
NHS. Steve, as somebody who ran his own small business through good times and some pretty rough times too, you've got my sympathy if you're going through a very difficult time. But if I look at unemployment overall in this country, it's the lowest it's been for decades. And whilst growth is not fantastic, I would certainly accept that. But can I please ask my question to you again? What lie did I tell you in the referendum?
I just clearly told you that you can create more jobs, which we are losing our job. In this, because of the cost of Brexit, we lost like a lot of European customers. We solely depend on those customers. They're all gone, and we are paying...
Well, Steve, if you take the British economy, only 10% of the British economy, maybe 12% on a good day, but let's say 10% of the British economy is involved with exports to the European Union. 80% of our economy doesn't do any overseas business at all. It is all business that goes on within our own country. And, Steve, I did argue very strongly in the referendum that to have a rule book that binds the 80% of our businesses, of our economy, who don't do overseas trade, actually was crackers, that we should be in charge of making our own rules and regulations. And, Steve, I did say in the referendum, we may get governments that make bad law, but we will at least be able to change that law once every 5 years by voting for a different government with a different manifesto. And the point, Steve, about European legislation is there is nothing we the voter can do to change any of it.
I really want someone to stop this Brexit. If there is no referendum, at least the government should think about it thoroughly and properly before going out of Europe, regardless of we voted 50% or 42% or 58%, whatever it is. But I just want people to understand, like you earlier said, 70% of British public agrees and happy to go ahead with Brexit.
Yes.
That is not true. Can you prove that?
Yes, I can give you 5 opinion polls. I can give you 5 opinion polls that have been put out by YouGov. Do you know what, Steve? Because I'm really getting a little bit tired of being called a liar. What I'll do to help you is I will make sure the up-to-date YouGov polls on how people see Brexit are up on lbc.co.uk by... I'm looking here at the producer, by 8 o'clock. 8:30, he says to me. Anyway, they'll be there. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Donald Trump has attacked his former chief strategist, who's accused the president's son of treasonous and unpatriotic behaviour. A White House statement says Steve Bannon has lost his mind. The health secretary has told LBC there's not a crisis in the NHS because there's a plan to deal with extreme pressure. Non-urgent procedures in England have been postponed until at least next month to help hospitals cope with demand. Detectives investigating the murder of a Japanese man in Ireland say terrorism is one line of inquiry. An 18-year-old Egyptian man's been arrested on suspicion of murder and 2 assaults. LBC weather, the stronger winds becoming lighter for most this evening. Much colder patches in the north of England and Scotland, with rain elsewhere by tomorrow morning. An overnight low of 6 degrees.
LBC travel in Dagenham. There's a lane closed on the A13 westbound between the Goresbrook interchange and Gale Street. It's after an accident earlier. There are delays back to Chequers Corner. On the A2 in Kent, very slow moving heading westbound towards the M25. It's after a police investigation earlier. And in North London, looking very slow around the Emirates Stadium ahead of tonight's football match. And in Greenwich South Street is closed northbound for roadworks between the George and Dragon traffic lights and Devonshire Drive. LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh.
This is LBC.
The Beau Concept Winter Design Sale is now on. Discover a world of cool contemporary furniture and coordinated home accessories with great savings across the store. And why not take advantage of our free interior design service to help you make the most of your space? Visit one of our 7 stores in London, Kingston or Guildford to make the most of great savings in our design sale. Beau Concept, contemporary Danish design since 1952. Visit beauconcept.com for store details.
Ambitious and determined to succeed.
Study for a 2-year degree at GSM London for just £12,000 this February and make your bold dreams happen.
Accelerated degrees are a great way to progress your career faster.
And they're awarded by Plymouth University.
Enroll now at our Greenford and Greenwich campuses and follow your dreams of success.
Act fast. Offer ends January 15th.
Search Have Bold Dreams at GSM London.
Special offer. Conditions apply.
Even if you only employ one person, you have to provide a workplace pension. It's the law. Get to know your responsibilities with help from the pensions regulator. Visit workplacepensions.gov.uk.
Jack here has got Kev on the phone. As a PlusNet customer, he has lots of friendly people that have his back. Say hi, Kev.
Hi, Kev. Hi?
He can call PlusNet any day of the week. They've already helped him pick a package, upgrade a package, check bills, move home, give him matrix, ordered SIMs, transferred numbers, added buttons, checked his connection speed. And Julie here even helped him settle on Mallorca for his next family holiday.
Don't forget the factor 30.
PlusNet has lots of friendly staff that just can't help but help. It's probably why they've bagged Uswitch's Best Provider for Customer Service Award. PlusNet will do you proud.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters. ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
Save up to 50% in the Homebase £40 million clearance. Thousands of products are priced to clear across lighting, heating, power tools and more. But hurry, only while stocks last. Homebase. Always low prices.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Well, the International Trade Secretary Liam Fox says there is an obsession with being negative about Brexit, and it's time at the start of this year we shook ourselves out of it. And what he's saying is, get over it, accept the result, and get on with it. And I'm particularly asking people, I'm happy to take people from both sides, but I'm particularly asking people who were Remainers, do they now think, actually, Fox is right, and we should simply get on with the job and respect the result? Now, you can't help noticing across every form of media at the moment, there are headlines running about a pretty strong war of words that is going on between Donald Trump, the US President, and Steve Bannon, his former special advisor. I know both of these men, and it's always a great shame when people who've been allies and friends fall out. But fallout they have. And I think this fallout, in many ways, says a lot about Donald Trump. Whether you like Donald Trump, whether you loathe Donald Trump. And it's something that was said to me, first by Piers Morgan, who's known Trump for a number of years, and somebody else whose name I won't mention, but a quite prominent Scottish businessman who'd known Trump for 30 years. The thing about Trump is he is absolutely, fiercely loyal to people, and his absolute, ultimate priority and loyalty is to his family. So when Steve Bannon criticised one of his sons in a comment that came out as part of an extract from a book today, I'm not in the least bit surprised that the President has responded the way that he has. As I say, like him or loathe him, this man is fiercely loyal, and he puts his family above absolutely everything. As I suspect, do a majority of you listening to this programme right now. It's what people do. Returning to negativity, the obsession with negativity, as Liam Fox describes it, and the need for us to shake out of it. I'm going to ask John in Formby. Is Liam Fox right, John?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to follow Bing Crosby, I think it was, accentuate the positive.
Yes.
Positive mental altitude, sports people will tell you. But I detect here what I would call Alan Ball syndrome. Let me tell you what that means.
Alan Ball syndrome?
Yes, well, he was a vital part...
This is the 1966 World Cup footballer, and... Yeah?
Yes, but in the mid-70s...
Yeah.
When he'd been dropped by Don Revie, and England had a key match, I think it was against Italy, he said, I'll be telling you in my column why I want England to lose. Obviously, so that he could come back as the national saviour.
Did he really do that?
Oh, yeah.
And I assume he never played for England again.
I think that's right, yes. I think that's true. Obviously, even after they lost the game...
John, there may be listeners who think we're diverting a bit off the track talking about the 1966 World Cup squad. But go on, please.
The principle is exactly the same. If
yes.
They can talk it down and sabotage it, and there is a lot of sabotage going on. Remember, Rudolf Hesseltine said that Brexit is a boil that needs to be lanced. Then they think they can go back to the public and say, hey, let's stop it. But another point to consider is what if we do have a second referendum? Now, what happens then if they lose again? Is it going to be the best of 500 or...?
Well, I think, John, to be honest with you, if the second referendum was about rejoining a European Union that had now made absolutely clear that everybody must join the currency, everybody must be in the Schengen zone, everybody must be part of a foreign policy without veto, which could even include acts such as going to war, and be part of a European army, I think, John, I don't believe there will be a second referendum on us rejoining the European Union, because I think we would reject it overwhelmingly.
Yes, and I think more facts will come to light. Did you hear the beauty from Lord Adonis?
Well, I heard a lot from Lord Adonis, quite a bit of it about me, in a less than complimentary way, but go on.
Well, he came out with an absolute classic. He was challenged about Merkel's million, the mass migration.
Yeah.
We all know about the wintertime assaults on women, and now there's been some outbreak of crime in Lower Saxony, I believe. But his attitude to this was, well, it's a challenge. Almost so it's a bit of fun, like going round an obstacle course.
Wow.
He also said that the reunification of Germany was a much bigger challenge. I just don't get that.
Well, John, I have to say one thing, that not long after the referendum, I'm talking perhaps 3-4 months afterwards, I was on a radio debate programme with a former Labour cabinet minister, and he said to me, I think Mrs. Merkel tipped the balance in favour of Brexit, that people saw the huge numbers that she was encouraging into Europe, realised that within a few years they would all have EU passports, and that was a major contributory factor to people voting Brexit. His name was David Blunkett. John, as ever, I thank you for your call. Now, Shane on Facebook says, 350 million to the NHS, written on the side of a bus you drove around the country. Wasn't that a lie? Shane, I didn't drive it round the country. I never, ever supported the figure of 350 million. It wasn't a lie. It was the gross amount we have to write in to our annual budget. But, of course, there is an annual rebate, which Mrs. Thatcher negotiated, although Blair gave away half of it. And then, of course, there is money that we get back, and it comes back in the form of agricultural support, regional spending, etc. So, no, it wasn't a lie. But I didn't think the figure was a wise one to use, and I did advise Boris's camp of that at the time. Gary says the 350 million is not a lie, but cannot materialise until we actually leave. So what's hard to understand about that? Well, unfortunately, Gary, what the Prime Minister seems terribly pleased about is the fact that we're going, after the 29th of March 2019, is that we're going to go into a transition period where effectively we go on paying the full membership fee for another 2 years, and that is part of this overall 40 billion package for us to leave. I wonder, Nigel, we made our decision. The economy is not the only aspect of Brexit, and anyway, we haven't left yet, so who can judge, says Elaine. We're quite sensible, Elaine, we haven't left yet. And you're right, everybody is arguing this as if the referendum was all about future economic predictions, which probably both sides have got wrong. Brexit was not about future economic predictions. Brexit was about, do we wish to be a self-governing nation or not? Do we think we're better making our own laws in our own country, or is it better to be part of a bigger new state of the European Union? Brexit was about sovereignty, democracy, self-governance. That is what Brexit was really all about. I wonder what Freddie in Chelmsford makes of this debate tonight. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Nigel. Thank you very much for taking my call. The point I want to make is quite simple. I voted in the 1975 referendum.
Yep.
I'm that old. And when we lost the referendum fair and square. There wasn't a peep of dissent. That was it. We accepted the loss.
Yes.
And we said, let's move on and get on with it and the world turned, and the rest is history.
Freddie, that is Freddie, that is absolutely true. It's absolutely true that the Leave side did accept the result, but maybe, and just to sort of try and be objective about this, the difference was, of course, it was a bigger margin, wasn't it, last time? That in that referendum, 66% voted to stay, whereas in this case it was 52% that voted to leave. So that perhaps is a difference.
That's correct, but the big difference between that referendum and this one, if I may say so, is that the whole of Fleet Street was lined up with moving into Europe. There wasn't a single organ that said, no, this isn't the right way to move. And it was dear old Peter Shaw and one or two other honourable people that championed it. But it was a David versus
Actually,
Goliath.
Freddie, I know the history of this, and you're absolutely right. The whole of Fleet Street lined up to say, vote Remain. The Mail, the Express, all of them said, vote Remain. There were 3 publications who said, vote Leave. The Morning Star, the Spectator magazine, and the Dundee Courier. How about that? So they were the only 3 in the whole country.
I'm glad my memories stood the test of time.
No, you're dead right.
Can I please just make one mention to Lords Heseltine and Adonis? Please, just have a bit of sense of British fair play. We lost last time, and we accepted it. Now, you've lost this time. Just be honourable and say, OK, you've won. Fair and square. Please, do that.
Freddie, what a wonderful way to end the phone call. Thank you very much indeed. There we are. Lords Heseltine and Adonis. Be honourable, says Freddie in Chelmsford. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Jeremy Hunt says there's not a crisis in the NHS after thousands of operations are cancelled. Is this just hospitals under winter pressure, or is crisis the right word?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Oak Furnitureland's up to 50% off winter sale is now on, and this weekend only we've amazing January extra savings. With low prices and our vast range of furniture styles for every room in your home, you'll be amazed at the choice. Go online now to find a store near you. Oak Furnitureland's January extra savings ends Sunday.
Everyone who comes to TDC Smile in a Day has a story to tell.
I couldn't eat a baguette or fruit, an apple.
We gave John dental implants and natural-looking fixed teeth in just one day.
What I didn't want was to have teeth taken out and then have to wear dentures.
Around 3 months later, we exchanged his fixed teeth for his final permanent set. To see life-changing before and after pictures and independent patient reviews, visit smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 986.
Take the step, because it's life-changing.
0203 7334 986.
We've travelled, been there, shared rum with the locals. That mountain was near impossible to climb, but we got to the top for sunrise. We've looked over the edge of the infinity pool into the valley below and floated above herds of elephants in a hot air balloon. We can tell you about it because we've travelled it. The Kuoni sale is now on, so pop into one of our beautiful stores for a down-to-earth chat. At Kuoni, our experience makes yours. At all protected.
Apparently, there are still some people who say they don't want to apply for an Ocean credit card. That's amazing, because there's a credit limit of up to £1,500. Text so you keep control of your spending, and you can see if you'll be accepted before you apply at checkocean.co.uk without affecting your credit rating. But I know the real reason people say they don't want to apply, because they've already got one. To apply for an Ocean credit card, go to checkocean.co.uk. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
At Honda, when we have one good idea, we keep going until we find another one. It could be forward collision warning if you get too close, or lane departure warning if you wander left or right. Some ideas give you more Honda for your money, like up to £1,000 test drive incentive and 5 years complimentary servicing. Discover these and even more great offers at your nearest participating dealer before the 31st of January. Terms and conditions apply. Honda, the power of dreams.
Miss Grady, come on through.
GP and nurse appointments are now available in your area during the evening and on weekends. To book an appointment, contact your practice or visit nhs.uk/GP access for more information. Your NHS, here for you for longer.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Is Liam Fox right? Do some of our public figures simply have an obsession with Brexit that actually now puts them even more out of touch with public opinion in this country? And I'm particularly asking people who voted in that referendum Remain whether they now think it's time we actually moved on and simply accepted a democratic result, whether we liked it or not, and just got on with it. No, Brexit would be the worst single decision ever taken by the UK. It must be stopped at all costs, says Adam on Twitter. Well, Adam, there are people who fanatically feel like you about it, but I would suggest that is a rapidly shrinking number of people, and I do think, and we've had this from a couple of callers tonight, I do think that the behaviour of Juncker and Barnier towards us, their stated ambitions to move on to a full United States of Europe, I think that actually has made quite a big difference since that referendum. That's my view. I wonder what Nick in Kings Lynn thinks. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening. Well, with reference to your last caller, your humble caller, Freddie,
yeah,
he says he voted in 1975 in a referendum.
Yes.
To leave.
Yes.
And he humbly accepted the result.
Yes.
I'll just suggest to him that he had no choice to accept the result.
Oh, right. So
British capitalism was in such total disarray in the 70s after the collapse of the post-war boom and the swinging 60s that staying in Europe was the only obvious alternative. It was crying out for EU subsidies. It was crying out for EU trade.
Well, you say, Nick, you say EU subsidies, but actually, in every single year we've been a net contributor, haven't we?
Well, only because of the state, yeah, because we are a net contributor, because we are a stronger economy now than what was before.
Yeah, but even back in the 70s, when, and you're quite right, we were going through a pretty bleak period, you know, for every single year after that referendum, despite all of our problems and going to the IMF, we were still contributors, weren't we?
Well, we were contributors just because of the nature of our economy. It's like you can't just look at it in black and white and compare us to other nations like Germany or lesser countries like former Eastern Bloc countries are now, like Romania and Czechoslovakia, or the Czech Republic and things like that. You can't just make that black and white analogy.
Well, Nick, circumstances I accept are different, but Freddie made a point that nobody complained after 75, and he was right. But people are certainly complaining now, Nick, aren't they?
Well, let's go actually to the point that you raised a couple of times about the advisory nature of this referendum. It was advisory, as well you know, Nigel.
So, no, Nick, I've said...
It was non-binding.
Nick, I've said already on this show, I've conceded on this show that in terms of our constitution in this country, that it was advisory and non-binding. But Nick, we were told by the Prime Minister, we were even told by Hilary Benn in Parliament, everyone told us that actually whatever we decided would be honoured.
And do you know why that was? Do you know why they played it all down about the non-advisory nature? Because they knew with so many people who were convinced, who were brainwashed to think that Europe was the cause of our economic problems, they didn't want to upset them if there was a leave vote. That's what it was all about. That's why there was no mention about it being advisory.
So they just lied to us, Nick, yeah?
Well, it was not so much a lie. You know,
well, it sounds like a whopping great big lie.
It was a clever piece of political manipulation. And you talk about Ramoners. You can only call Michael Heseltine as being a lefty Ramona, Andrew Adonis a lefty, the CBI.
No, Nick, nobody, Nick, on this show tonight has used the word lefty.
Well,
nobody.
You only have to look
nobody.
May not on this show.
No, nobody. Not me, not anybody.
It is constantly used, well, Levy, Liberal, or whatever. It's that we're all these Remainers are supposed to be on the left, which is rather stupid, really, because the EU is not a left-wing organisation. It's not a communist organisation, and I've seen that written on your own Facebook Facebook site and along a lot of Brexit websites.
Oh,
it's all communist.
No, it's a right-wing form of communism, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that. But and it is. I've said communist, Nick, because it is big government, and you can't sack the people that make the rules, and voters in elections can't do anything to change legislation. Nick, do you want a second referendum?
No, I didn't want any referendum in the first place. I just want Brexit to collapse on its own accord, which I think it will, Nigel.
OK, Nick, fine. Your view is clear. I don't agree with it, but hey, you've said it loudly and clearly. Matthew is calling from Heathrow. Good evening, Matthew.
Hi, Nigel. Good evening. Basically, I mean, I'm a Remainer, accepted we're going to leave, but basically, because of the Northern Ireland border issue, I think it's time for you to accept that, I mean, we're only going to leave in name only until we resolve that, the border issue there. And we've just everyone's got to unite, working together to solve that problem, and everyone's got to unite behind Theresa May so she doesn't have to rely on the DUP.
Well, so Matthew, I agree with certainly the first part of what you said, that the course the Prime Minister has currently got us on. Are we going to leave the European Union? Yes. But will we effectively have left in name only because we're wrapped up in transition deals? We haven't even attempted to deal with getting back our territorial fishing waters, etc. That's probably true. As far as the border in Ireland's concerned, people say one half in the customs union and one part of Northern Ireland outside the customs union, the larger part in the customs union, means there have to be all sorts of border checks. Matthew, already we have different taxes on both sides of the borders. We have a different currency on both sides of the borders. And I think Bertie Ahern, was really, former Taoiseach, really showed a grown-up attitude that will just deal with it. And that's what I think. But Matthew, I want to ask you, as a Remainer that has accepted the result, how do you view the comments and the behaviour of Lord Adonis and Lord Heseltine?
Well, I mean, I think, the people still asking for this second referendum are basically, I wouldn't call them Ramonas as well, but basically, I think everyone has got to unite together, to try to sort out the Northern Ireland issue. But I mean, we are going to leave, but basically we're going to have restrictions on what trade we could do with the rest of the world, because we need to keep the frictionless border. What we're going to end up having to still pay something towards the EU for. But, even Ireland, they need to transit their goods through the UK.
I know, which is why, Matthew, actually, what we should do is we should go above the European Union, straight to the World Trade Organisation, and say, will you support us in putting together a tariff-free deal between Ireland and the United Kingdom for politically sensitive reasons, so that not only can our trade be tariff-free, but they can transship their goods through us as well. Matthew, I do understand the complexity of this, but I do actually think that the current Irish Prime Minister, the current Irish Taoiseach, is not really acting in the interests of the Irish people. He's acting in the interests of Brussels. Matthew, I thank you very much indeed for your call. I'm going to take one last quick call. Steve, a first-time caller from Congleton. Good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. Yeah, the original point of your phoning was to say, should people who want to remain be reconciliatory now and be proactive?
Yes.
And I think you're probably the worst proponent of that, because you're very... The way you attack people when they come on and disagree with you, the way you yelled and bawled in the European Parliament, you're setting the tone.
Oh, Steve, I don't attack people. I don't attack people that come on unless, of course, Steve, they call me a liar or something stupid like that. Otherwise, no. Steve, if you've got a different point of view, I want to hear it.
I just told you, you're probably the worst proponent of reconciliation in this whole debate. It's kind of funny coming from you that we should all sit down and agree with you and be positive, and yet you really don't give that impression at all that you would do the same. And you didn't, in fact, when you were in the European Court, European Parliament.
Well, I had to fight, Steve.
Vehemently against it.
I had to fight against the entire establishment in this country who all had the same view and wrote off anyone that took a different view as being mad, bad and dangerous. So, yes, Steve, I accept the point. I've had to punch pretty hard to raise the profile of this issue, but I promise you, Steve, I respect people who've got different points of view. And if you listen to my interview with Vince Cable, Sir Vince Cable, the other week, if you listen to that, I hope, Steve, from Congleton, you'll go to lbc.co.uk, have a look at that interview, and I hope I treated him with absolute respect. Listen, I thank all of you for your calls, and yeah, we've had several of you tonight on the phone, Remainers, who are saying, you know what, let's accept the result and get on with it, and maybe Liam Fox is right in pointing out this obsessive negativity that we're getting from Heseltine, Adonis and others. So back in October I wrote to Mr Barnier asking for a meeting after a stream of Ramonas had been into his office in Brussels. I got a letter back saying he'd meet me in the members' bar in Strasbourg. I thought I perhaps could do with a bit better than that. I do want to represent the views of 17.4 million people. I will be meeting formally with Mr Barnier in Brussels next week. I'll tell you exactly when it is tomorrow. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow at 7 when I'll tell you that news. Coming up at 10 tonight, it's Nick Abbott in for Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. So coming up, Donald Trump has launched a scathing attack saying his former strategist, Steve Bannon,